extremely honored to welcome our speaker for today, Dr. Chris Garrison.
Good morning. I'm so blessed to be here, serving Spirit, and to be a part of this wonderful, beautiful spiritual community. The title of my talk is, What's Love Got to Do with It? Now, I'm going to ask you a few questions. You do not need to raise your hands. I'd like for you to reflect about this. How many of you have loved? How many of you have loved authentically? How many of you have fallen in love? How many of you have loved and lost? How many of you know the deep, wrenching experience of heartbreak and grief? How many of you have experienced unconditional love? How many of you have given it? Anytime we choose to love, inevitably, our heart's always broken. For example, people move, some people disappoint, disrespect, betray, abandon us, while others physically die and transition to spirit. When we lose someone, and that includes a beloved pet, we are left with a wide array of feelings and memories. We yearn for what we previously had. And yet, Spirit is always with us, encouraging us and loving us. Now let's consider this. When we express and hold on to anger, are we coming from a place of love? When we express and hold on to old hurts, grudges, are we coming from a place of love? When we purposely hurt someone, disrespect, or judge someone, are we coming from a place of love? As a licensed psychotherapist and a counseling psychologist, I've been blessed to clinically help patients to heal their hearts. Some were sexually and physically abused as children, while others were tortured in ways I'm unable to describe here. Some lost their children, while others lost loved ones due to suicide, violent acts, and disease. Also, as a spiritualist medium, I bring forth messages of hope, healing, that life continues beyond physical death. You may ask yourself, why do I do this work as a counseling psychologist? Why do I continue to support others? I want to share a story with you, as I feel it demonstrates the power of love, forgiveness, hope, and healing. Many years ago, when I lived in Boston, I treated a young 12-year-old boy, and let's call him JR. JR was referred to me for therapy as he had very low self-esteem and he was in special education. And he spent his earlier education in a non-residential program, what was known in that period of time, a school for mentally retarded children. People thought he had a learning disability, and he was essentially labeled as developmentally delayed. And to complicate matters, no one ever tested or evaluated him. In those days, people would have said JR was slow, and they used unkind and derogatory terms. In treatment with me, he described the most horrendous things that his school and neighborhood peers did to him because they perceived him as not good enough, and so on. I found JR to be charming, highly intelligent, and his parents agreed with my assessment. I supported JR to love himself and embrace his uniqueness. JR wanted to be mainstreamed into regular classes, as his dream was to attend college. The school system informed his parents and myself that JR would never reach any of his goals. I taught JR not to give up. Equally important, I taught JR with his parents' endorsement to challenge the school system and how to express his voice. I also helped JR to forgive those who emotionally and physically harmed him. As treatment progressed, JR transformed into a vibrant, articulate, humorous, outgoing young man. After several years of treatment, JR left therapy as his parents moved. Due to the invention, thankfully, of the internet, many years later, I heard from JR. He informed me not only did he leave special education, but he successfully graduated from high school. Moreover, JR informed me he received a bachelor's, a master's, and a doctorate in his chosen field. And by the world standards, he was accomplished and successful. To this day, I'm very proud of him. I have a confession to make. JR did not exist. I mean, he did, but he didn't. That child's real name was Christopher, otherwise known as Dr. Christopher Garrison. The story is true, but I was that child. You see, in my lifetime, I too have loved and lost, had my heart broken, been misunderstood, disrespected, and yet my heart healed. Perhaps out of my own previous pain and healing from it lies my ability to empathize, accept, and love others, and be open to spirit. You may ask, what does this talk have to do with love? How does it relate to spiritualism? My response is this. In spiritualism, some would say, some, not all, but some would say there are various physical and spiritual laws, known as natural law. Some would say these spiritual laws are spiritual guidelines, which allow us to grow based on our choices and free will. Two specific laws I briefly like to mention are the law of love and the law of attraction. The law of love, in my opinion, is the highest spiritual principle. Where there is love, there is healing, acceptance, hope, and forgiveness. The law of attraction essentially states we attract to others, but which are similar to us. In other words, like attracts like. What does that all mean? Remember, I said this talk was titled, What Does Love Have to Do with It? We have the choice, once we are open to knowledge and growth, to not only to love, but to attract loving, giving, and supportive people and spirit people into our lives. As a community, a region, a country, and the world, we need more love, compassion, understanding, and acceptance. So what does love have to do with it? Everything. Finally, remember the divine, your spirit people, and loved ones in spirit are always there, guiding you and giving you love. You, I, and collectively have the choice. Listen to my words. We have the choice to extend and accept love. My prayer for each of you is Spirit will bless you with love, light, and compassion for yourselves and for others. Thank you.